Hi everybody, today is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025, and our friend Laith Marouf is back with us. Welcome back, Laith.
Good to be with you, Nima.
Laith, we see again the United States is attacking Yemenis, and at the same time, Israelis have announced that they're going to attack, they're attacking Gazans in Gaza. What's going on in your opinion? What are we getting back to the same old policy of the Biden administration?
Yeah, I mean, it's the old policy of the United States, period, since the beginning of the creation of the Zionist colony. The United States has supported all the objectives of this colony. I think there's obviously we saw the attacks on Gaza, as you mentioned, the attacks on Yemen. Simultaneously, yesterday there was Israeli attacks on Syria, Israeli attacks on Lebanon, HTS attacks on Lebanon, HTS continued genocide in the coast. So you take a wider look. And also, by the way, there was an attack yesterday in Iraq by some unidentified Wahhabi death squads on the Iraqi military. So it's the same policy of killing the Arab people, destroying Arab societies, destroying Arab states, fragmenting Arabic people, all in the service of the maintenance of this artificial uh, colony that cannot exist without all this constant killing of Arabs in general, not only in Palestine. And there's something that came out yesterday that maybe is going to even make things clearer for people. There was a statement coming out from the White House about the meeting between Trump and Putin, President Trump and President Putin. And one of the last paragraphs says basically that Russia is supporting Israel and will, and the United States objectives on that. And we saw, and specifically saying that Russia agrees that they will never allow Iran to surpass Israel militarily. And at the same time, there was a statement by Medvedev, the former president, former prime minister of Russia, very close to President Putin, who said in this meeting, the what is it? Kiev-style chicken was on the table. Only the two presidents were sitting when Kiev-style and something about sausages, German sausages, and British this and French that. So basically saying that the Europeans are being divvied up between Russia and the United States. And I think, when I was telling people for a long time to understand, specifically in the axis of resistance, that the only possibility for defense of the axis of resistance will be to be fully sovereign militarily and not depend on Russia. And when I said Syria was on that cutting board between Russia and the United States, those were not to put down Russia or the Russian peoples. This is the fact. This is how international relations work between states. And this is how statesmen work. Statesman is not just a regular president. A statesman is a person who can, work specifically for the best of their country, and Russia is doing the best for its country. Okay, I'm not going to blame it for what it's doing, but this is a clear wake-up call for anybody in the axis of resistance that thinks that international relations or BRICS or multipolarity will ever save Palestine or save people in the region here or stop the wars of the United States. If we are not capable of creating our own pole, totally independent economically and militarily, the result will be Ukraine and Syria, as you see.
Laith, do you think that Yemenis would, is there any sort of difference that, is there any difference that Donald Trump and his administration can bring to the table to defeat Yemenis, in your opinion?
I mean, clearly the Biden administration tried and didn't succeed, and clearly for centuries before that, many other global imperialist powers, from the Romans to today, tried to occupy the mountains of Yemen or defeat the peoples of Yemen in the mountains, and they couldn't. So, what can Trump bring more? I think this possibility of use of nuclear weapons, as we saw with the threats of Israel. And also, of course, there's the threat of attacking Iran, where Trump now is saying he's going to blame Iran for anything that Yemen does. And that's in itself, whether using nuclear weapons or not, uh, destruction of Iranian nuclear facilities is the same as using a nuclear weapon and will contaminate the whole region and will cause mass deaths. So uh, I think that's where we're going. The United States right now and the Zionists are very emboldened in terms of their ability to cull and genocide and mass expel Arabs and Muslims in general, and that nobody's stopping them. And for now, the axis of resistance doesn't seem to be able to do this on its own or choosing not to do this on its own, meaning there's nobody to stop them. Therefore, they're going to continue on this path.
Don't you think if they go that way, the use of nuclear weapons is not something regular, and that they're going to destroy everything? Donald Trump is going to destroy his administration and his term, his second Trump 2.0, and nobody would believe there would be no credibility for the United States, and each and every country in the region would go after the nuclear bomb, and they would know that the United States would use their bombs against them. Don't you think that I simply don't see the United States using nuclear bombs, because that would be the end for everybody. China, it's not just about the Middle East. Everybody would learn from that.
We already saw the use of nuclear weapons in two occasions. One is the explosion in the bombing of the port of Beirut. That was a tactical nuke. And we saw one very recently after the fall of the Syrian government, the Assad government, the attack on Tartus in the mountains there. There was either a use of a tactical nuke there and or the targeting of the only warhead, nuclear warhead, that's the Syrian government had, uh, that was rumored to be there, and that was purchased from Soviet, scientists and generals at the collapse of the Soviet Union. So we've seen already the use of nuclear weapons. People don't want to admit it. There's possibility of even that it was used in Yemen at the beginning of the Saudi Emirati war on Yemen. The video is out there, the attack on Sana'a and the whole mountain shaking. You could see the mushroom, the explosion there. So I think we're already at that stage. Obviously, they're not using huge nuclear heads, they're using these tactical nukes, and nobody's saying anything about it. There was scientists that showed tests from the Tartus mountains region where that explosion happened a couple of months ago during those waves of Israeli attacks, and it's proven now, they're registered in terms of nuclear waste and fallout in the region. In Lebanon, it's illegal to enter these geiger that check on the pollution or nuclear pollution in the region. And I've been trying to get one into the country so we can test not only the site of the Beirut port, which has been cleaned up completely, but also like in other places in the country, how much we're trying to find out how much depleted uranium shells were used attacking the city of Beirut or the regions of the country. I think an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities is very possible because the Zionists are so crazy, and Trump and the Zionists in his regime want to prove the manhood of the United States again. But of course, they want to take it out on brown people and non-nuclear powers. They can't prove their manhood to the Russians, with a direct fight and or the Chinese. So they got to take it out on somebody else. Clearly, it's our people.
The problem is if they attack Iranian nuclear facility, Iran can easily attack Israel in each and every point they want to attack. Of course, that includes the nuclear facilities in Israel. And Laith, when it comes to the case of Yemen, do you see how do you see the leverage that the Trump administration has on the Arab states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, and which were participating, helping the United States in attacking Yemenis in this attack on the part of the United States, together, by the way, together with the United Kingdom. United Kingdom, their air force used Cyprus, but the United States used Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Bahrain to attack Yemenis. Do you think they're gonna get involved directly with Yemenis? They're gonna go fighting again, the same sort of attitude that they had before for them more than a decade?
Yeah, I mean, look, the as far as what is the involvement in this attack of these countries beyond their bases being used, we heard that their air fueling jets went up in the air to refuel the American and British jets that were bombing Yemen on their way back. Um, Obviously, it's American and British pilots that are flying these planes. They're not even if they're painted Saudi or Bahraini or Emirati. The other thing is that, look, these are not sovereign countries. And in fact, all the oil and gas revenues of these manufactured colonial, structures that we call Saudi Kingdom or Bahrain or Qatar has been funding directly the destruction of the Arabic world and the fight against Arab unification and the liberation of Palestine, fighting every Arabic republic that escaped colonialism for 80 years. So the United States, whatever wars it's conducting in our region, are all paid for by the oil and gas of these countries. And in fact, probably the whole Western economy will collapse. Not only their power to project, or using the oil and gas bases there to project their power over the rest of the world in Asia and Africa. So the Arabic and oil and gas has never benefited the Arabic people. There was just a brief moment in Libya and in Algeria that Arabic gas and oil benefited the Arabic people and liberation in general in Africa and Ireland and Latin America. But now the United States has control of all the Arabic oil, gas and oil, including Yemen's, so including Libya's, including Syria's, including Iraq, and is spending all that money on our death. And so if Yemen wants to take this war into a different direction, if Iran wants to learn from the last 100 years of struggle in the region, the first lesson we should all, understand is we need to burn the Arabic gas and oil fields to the ground. These have been a curse on us. Their money have been used to kill millions and upon millions of Arabic people and Muslim people. And they've never benefited us. And that will definitely stop the American economy and the Western economies on their heels. And it will also stop them from the ability to project power across our region. And after the liberation of these lands, you can reuse these oil and gas fields, but for now, they should be not allowed to be able to to export these. And my final last thing, and I think this is another lesson that anyone in the axis of resistance listening should understand, is that it's not only Jerusalem and Palestine that is occupied since World War One, but since World War One, for the first time, Mecca and Medina, the Muslim holy cities, for the first time since the birth of Muhammad, Mecca and Medina fell to colonial rule from non Muslim countries because of the Hashemite royal family that pledged allegiance to the British and fought against the Ottomans. And then the British entered Mecca and Medina. And today, the Saudis are vassals of the United States. And you cannot, to be truthful, as a Palestinian, I tell you this, you cannot liberate Jerusalem from colonial imperialist rule before you liberate Mecca and Medina from that same colonial.
Laith, what was the reason of the conflict between Lebanon and Syria? While we know that Israel is attacking Syria, but Syria is just shifting the attack on Lebanese people. What's going on there?
Yeah, I was in the north of Lebanon yesterday on the border in the Bekaa Valley, northern part facing, Syria. And we visited two towns. One of them is Hosh Said Ali, where the confrontations began with three HTS Wahhabi Death Squad members crossing into Lebanon and trying to steal a herd of cows from a farmer on the Lebanese side who just pulled his personal gun and shot the three of them dead. And so that triggered an attack by HTS on the village of Hosh Said Ali, and the local clans and tribes picked up arms and fought off HTS, including destroying four tanks that are coming from, of course, the Syrian military coffers that HTS stole at the end of the war. And the fighting continued for 3 nights, including last night. We visited other villages also that were attacked. We saw the Lebanese military gathering outside Hosh Said Ali and kind of blocking for a while the local tribesmen from fighting to liberate their own village. And we saw the Lebanese army putting up, mounds of earth at the different crossings in the north. The border is very porous. It's just small river in some places. Other places just open land between the two, and much of the villages are on both sides of the border, and the farmlands are both sides of the border, and much of the other side on the Syrian territory, the villages themselves and the farmlands are owned by Lebanese citizens that have been there since the Sykes-Picot agreements drew this fake border and cut off their lands on both sides. So the situation is very volatile, and as you said, this is happening at the same time as Israel is attacking South Syria and Central Syria. Even yesterday, there was Israeli raids just north of this area where the fighting is happening between HDS and the local Lebanese tribes. And so you could see like the how actually HTS is working with the Zionists. So they don't care about anything that's happening in Syria, and in fact, any Syrian that is saying any criticism of HTS or Israel are getting killed. So there's no. It's not just a coincidence that HTS attacks coincide with Israeli attacks. It's all designed together.
And how do they feel about, I'm talking about the Lebanese government, how do they feel about the renewed attack of Israel on Gaza? Because they were talking together with other Arab states. They were talking about the peace plan on the part of the Egyptian government. How do they feel right now? How do they talk about it right now?
Yeah, the Lebanese government is silent, not only about the attack on Gaza, it's silent about the attacks on Lebanon by the HTS and by the Israeli government and military. It's crazy. The remember the new, self-appointed president, Abu Muhammad Jolani, uh, led HTS, Nusra, whatever, ISIS into an attack inside Lebanon during the war of Syria, and occupied the mountain regions in the Qalamon and killed many Lebanese soldiers at the time. Muhammad Jilani ordered personally much of the all those car explosions and terrorist attacks that happened inside Lebanon during the war on Syria. And this new president went and shook his hands. Who this new president, Aoun, was the head of the military, while this Jolani was killing his soldiers. Okay, uh, while Israel was attacking the south of Lebanon 2 days ago, and HTS was attacking the north, the new prime minister, Sleiman, the former head of the International Court of Justice, was sitting down commemorating the assassination of the former leader of the Socialist Party here in Lebanon, Jumblat, and thanking Al Jolani for supposedly catching the guy in the Syrian military that ordered the assassination of Jumblat in the 1970s, a guy in his 80s that we don't even know if he's still alive or if it's true that this is the person who ordered the killing. So there is a collaboration between the new president, new prime minister, with the Americans, with the Israelis. They're sitting, I mean, the army in the north here is just sitting and watching as the HTS is taking villages, and it's kind of preventing the locals from fighting them back, as I explained to you.
Laith, Donald Trump had an interview on CNN. He was talking with Anderson Cooper. Here is what he said. I want to know, what is your reaction? What is your answer to what he's asking?
Is at war with the West?
I think Islam hates us. There's something there that there's a tremendous hatred there. There's a tremendous hatred. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us.
In Islam itself?
You're going to have to figure that out, okay? You'll get another Pulitzer, right? But you're going to have to figure that out. But there is a tremendous hatred, and we have to be very vigilant. We have to be very careful, and we can't allow people coming into this country who have this hatred of the United States.
I guess the question is,
and of people that are not Muslim.
I guess the question is there a war between the West and radical Islam, or is there a war between the West and Islam
It's
itself?
radical, but it's very hard to define. It's very hard to separate because you don't know who's who.
What do you think about the way that he's trying to picture Islam? Islam is a, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he's repeating the sound bites that the Zionists have been feeding him. And the truth of the matter, if we want to judge religions by what the majority of its followers behave like, we know that Al Qaeda, ISIS, Al Nusra Front, all these, the Wahhabi cult is a fraction of Muslims. You know, there's not more than 2% of Muslims in the world follow this cult. And this cult is protected and projected by the Saudi royal family with the backing of the English and the Americans. So definitely this cult doesn't represent Islam. The other thing is that if we want to judge religions by what the vast majority of its followers, how they behave, then what do we say about Judaism? right? When the vast majority of followers of the Jewish religion are participating in the genocide in Gaza and the genocides that are happening around the Arabic and Muslim region. So, do we condemn Judaism and say it's not, uh, you know, compatible, or it hates us all? I mean, that would be a crazy thing to say. Personally, I wouldn't say that. But the other final thing that we need to see from or understand from this interview is that this man is saying it's all Islam and it's all his followers. So what are these local vassals that are Arabic or Muslim of the United States, whether the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, what have you? How do they understand this? If this man is saying that they are at war with Islam, this is the president of this supposed ally of these countries. What will Saudi Arabia say, which calls itself the homeland of Islam? And so I think it's clear right now that the Zionists have full control of the Trump administration and much of the West governments, and they are spreading hate against Arabs and Muslims, and they will not stop until they cause a clash of civilization that they've been itching for.
And actually, I do agree the way that you're picturing them, because it's not a fight against the religions; it's fight against those people who have some sort of understanding from Judaism, from Islam, from whatever, for their own benefits. They're doing this. And Laith, how, getting back to the conflict, what is the future for Gaza? What do they need? What do they want from the Islamic world, from the Islamic countries? Yesterday, they have announced that they want some sort of unity among the Muslim countries. How is that going to be achieved? How is that going to be possible if they don't do it right now for Gaza? If they don't go after that, when would that be possible for them to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad day in Gaza, the return to the genocide. We saw the first day of bombardment, over 400 killed, um, huge number being children, many of them born after the beginning of the genocide. And I mean, clearly the Zionists believe that they can finish the job, that nobody's going to stop them, especially that they have, you know, destroyed Syria, they have weakened Hezbollah, they have isolated Iran geographically because of the fall of Syria, and that the rest of the world, no matter what protestations came, that didn't stop them and didn't end their ability to continue the genocide. So they're moving on to continuing the genocide. So what do I see in the future is the Muslim countries or the Islamic countries organization, whatever states organization that is going to be meeting is going to change anything. I don't think so. Look, we're living a moment of repeating, as it happened 1,000 years ago, a millennia ago, of the combined Crusader attack with the Mongol hordes invasion of this region. And today's Crusaders, we can call them Crusaders, and the Mongol hordes are the Turkic Wahhabi Ikhwani death squads. It's the same, invading the plains of Syria and Iraq and destroying whole cities and cannibalizing and genociding, thousands upon thousands. This is what the Crusaders and the Mongols did. And the other thing that we can learn from that moment of history is that that only happened because of the fracturing of Arabic and Muslim states at the time that were fighting each other. And even during the Crusader occupation and or Mongol occupation, some of these states collaborated with the Crusaders and the Mongols. In the end, neither the Mongols or the Crusaders were able to stay. The Crusader occupation of Palestine lasted 100 years. That's it. So the Mongols also not only left Syria and Iraq, but they also converted to Islam. So can the modern Crusaders and the modern Mongols achieve what wasn't achievable 1,000 years ago? I don't think so either. Time is on our side, and there's still hope, and knowledge is there, and resistance is there, even after all this genocide. Resistance was there after the cannibalism and genocides of the Crusaders and the Mongols, and it blossomed and ended those. And one good note is that Israel right now even though it looks like the most vicious moment of its existence, it's also at its weakest moment of its existence. It cannot sustain itself for 1 minute without direct, non-stop deliveries of weapons and financial support and propaganda support from the West 24 hours. If 1 minute this stops, this colony will collapse. And so let's hope that the next phase of this war will be so damaging to the United States and to the West and to their economies and to their capabilities to project power that they have no choice but to pull back all their support as they're doing to Ukraine, and that will be the last day of Israel.
Laith, by the way, the excuse that the Israeli government is using to resume the attacks on Gaza, what was that? It was we know that the ceasefire had three phases. And the hostages should be released step by step. And it seems that they wanted to exchange all hostages in the first phase. Was that the reason they didn't get along with the ceasefire? At least the excuse that they're using.
So the first phase worked out perfectly. Everything that was written was delivered. There was, of course, a few hiccups, but the point is every part of the first stage went through. And then the Israelis, Netanyahu, decided that he wants to renegotiate phase two. And in phase two, he wanted every prisoner of war from Israelis released all at once. And that wasn't going to happen. Of course, the Palestinians were going to stick to what was negotiated on, and or at least negotiate something. And Netanyahu, as we saw, and the Zionists destroyed the possibility of negotiations. The United States, Trump sent his envoy to negotiate, and he spoke directly to Hamas, and then made that interview on the media saying that Hamas doesn't have horns on his heads, and they're not devils, they're regular people. And the next day he was fired. And of course, Netanyahu got what he wanted. And at the same time, yesterday, by the way, the cabinet voted to reappoint Ben Gvir as the Minister of Internal Security. And so Ben Gvir got what he wanted, which is back to war and genocide. And now he's back in the government. And Netanyahu has already fired the former chief of staff, the former head of the military, and yesterday fired the head of the Shabak, the military intelligence. Yeah, Shin Bet, the military intelligence. And so there's all these security agencies in Israel. Netanyahu is appointing Messianic Armageddonist people to lead these files, and he's going for full war and genocide in the whole region. Anybody that thinks that he's going to stop anytime soon without being forced to stop, it's fooling themselves.
Do you see that Hezbollah would get involved in the conflict, in the war, in what's going on between the Israelis and Gazans, Palestinians, or we're gonna see the Lebanese government going against Hezbollah and any decision on their part?
Yeah, I don't know if Hezbollah is going to restart its support front. They're still reorganizing their military capabilities and their structures. And they're having to deal with this real threat in the north of Lebanon, because in the north of Lebanon, there's, this, the Bekaa Valley is open land. There's few hills. It's, if HTS actually enters beyond these few hills in the north, within hours, it will be like in the middle of the Bekaa Valley. It's just open space. There's no defense positions that you can have there. So it's a very dangerous situation, and that's what why the Israelis are moving HTS there, not from the mountains or what have you. So I don't know about Hezbollah joining any fight anytime soon, but Hezbollah could see itself being forced to do so. The Israelis continue to bombard the villages in the south of Lebanon. 2 nights ago, they bombed 3 villages, killing civilians and destroying many of these prefabricated temporary structures that the city halls of those towns put up. There's in Kafr Kila, for instance, a few structures that included like a bakery and a coffee shop and a grocery that the city hall put there. The Israelis bombed it all. And so, how long can Hezbollah resist the urge to fight back? The Israelis may force them by doing something very crazy on purpose to instigate them into a fight, as we see they're doing that in Syria, they're doing that in Gaza, right as we are talking, and they're doing it with Yemen. The Americans didn't need to bomb Yemen. That led to Yemen responding by attacking Israel directly last night with hypersonic missiles. Before that, it was just a blockade on shipping to Israel. The United States is the one that escalated it on, because the Israelis want to escalate on all fronts. So I don't know how long Hezbollah can keep its tempers. And as we saw both in South Lebanon and in North Lebanon, the Lebanese military seems to be working in tandem with both the Israelis and HTS. So that's a big, big, big question that Hezbollah has to answer if it decides to go into war. How will it deal with the Lebanese army?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Laith, for being with us today. Great pleasure, as always.
Good to be with you, Nima. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.